Building a family can be a complicated, messy, lonely, and sometimes heartbreaking process. But you don't have to navigate this challenging journey alone.
Welcome to the All Paths podcast, where we support and celebrate all of the different ways there are to try to grow your family. We are your hosts, Kate and Emily from the nonprofit organization All Paths Family Building. And today we're talking with Kerri about her family's journey and her work in this space. Kerri, thank you for joining us today.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here and chat with you both.
Well, we're so glad to have you and get to know you. So before we get into your family building journey in a little more detail, we'd love for you to just introduce yourself for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Kerri Bicskei. I am a active duty military spouse. I am the nonprofit founder of Mindful Warrior Alliance, and I'm also a psychotherapist who has my own private practice. So I'm busy juggling kind of all the things. And my husband and I are actively on our path to IVF at this moment. So that's a little bit about just our current situation and who I am and what I do.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I think we'll definitely touch on all of the things that you do. But let's start with your own family building journey. Where did it begin?
Yes, my own family building journey began, probably 2018. My husband and I had begun to try to have, have our baby, and went through a series of, man, can you call it a series? There's just a whole host of appointments and trying to figure out, why we weren't able to conceive naturally. Saw fertility acupuncturists. We read all the books. It starts with the egg and, taking charge of your fertility and all of those good ones. Scheduled with lots of different practitioners in the holistic space, Western med space. And eventually we're just diagnosed with unexplained infertility. I did find later on an endometriosis diagnosis, which I was suspecting, but ignored on, and then later on saw a really good provider who validated that. And ended up doing a hysteroscopy and a laparoscopy and clearing out those cysts and fibroids, and then we're still unsuccessful in being able to naturally conceive. So our family building journey started, and we were stationed in Spokane, Washington at Fairchild Air Force Base, and then continued when we PCSed to Tampa, Florida, and saw a really good provider there. And then had started to think about IVF and what that would look like. And we were hesitant with that because we're very holistically minded. And gosh, is this messing with the universe in some way or God in some way? And is this supposed to happen for us? And all of those questions that you kind of start to have, or some people maybe start to have. So really feeling conflicted about our family building journey, but really knew at the bottom of our hearts that we wanted a baby, right? And if this was a way to get there, how could we be connected and hold true to our values and our alignment, and also move forward with this really cool advanced technology that we have at our disposal. So eventually we had decided to, after weeks and months of looking for fertility scholarships and financial aid scholarships and all the things, because, as a active duty military family, Tricare doesn't cover any fertility related expenses unless they're directly service injury related, right? Which is such a small microscopic subset of people who actually need this care. So we were looking for any sort of financial support, weren't able to find that. And, that prompted my husband and my conversation of like, gosh, there's such a deficit, this is such a gap between what's offered and what we need and what we get. And so there we kind of started to think about, what we can do, and the nonprofit kind of started floating a little bit, but I'll come back to that in a little bit. So we were looking for the financial scholarships, didn't really find anything. And then, the mental health piece was obviously really big too. And struggling through all the things that kind of come with the weight of not being able to have a baby naturally, right? So it was a lot of mental and emotional stress. But yeah, we eventually settled on CNY Clinic for fertility. They're the nation's most affordable, and we really liked our conversation with the providers and the nurses, and decided to go from Tampa to New York to their Albany clinic to do IVF. And we ended up, we were staying there for a month. My husband's actually from Vermont, and his family actually lives about an hour from Albany. So we stayed with his family, which was, you know, great. It was awesome, and had that support there. And then we're going back and forth between the Albany clinic. And then, we're doing again what was most connected with our values. We did a really low dose protocol, which is kind of the standard for endometriosis and my situation, and did a fresh transfer versus frozen. And so things that we felt like really connected to, like, hey, out of all this chaos, how could we keep some semblance of like us, right? And what we
Mhm.
feel like, okay, the fresh is like a little less intervention, and can we hold on to that? And maybe that can work for us too. So it felt good to us. And our provider was so supportive of like, quality over quantity and very low dose, protocol and all the things. And yeah, we did our cycle. And upon the retrieval process, right, there's 8 eggs that were retrieved, and all of them died except for the one that was even able to make it to be fertilized, and so we were of course devastated at like, that's not the attrition rate. You expect the attrition rate, but like not right upon retrieval. So that part really sucked, and we were kind of like, all right, here we are, like, what can we do? And I remember the providers were like, "Oh, all it takes is one." And I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes. And like, I really want to believe that. And anyway, it turned out to be that one egg from my weird left ovary, like, ended up being our daughter, Rogue. And yeah, so we named her Rogue because she was like
I love it.
the one rogue egg from
That's
my weird
perfect.
left ovary. Yeah, there was only one over there, and my husband's like, it was that lefty. It was the left one. It was the weirdo. Yeah, so funny.
Yes. Oh my God. I love
Yeah,
that.
she's special. And I mean, everyone thinks like, all the things, and there's so many amazing like IVF stories about like, and you're just kind of reminded of like, wow, how cool. Yeah, how cool all of this is. And there's some sort of alignment or like synchronicity happening, because all the things that kind of led to this point, you're just like, wow, how did we get here? Like, it's cool that we ended up here, and we're just so grateful. But yeah, that's kind of our family building journey for Rogue. And she's a little over a year right now. And now we're going back into, round two, and trying to, put all the good vibes out there.
Well, we're sending them to you as well. And now anyone listening will be sending them out whenever they're listening to it.
Oh, thank you so
Well,
much.
I so love so many things that you shared and appreciate you sharing them. But one of the things that I was struck by when you were talking is just that I do feel like you were able to pursue a lot of the more holistic solutions that felt more comfortable and natural to you in the beginning. I feel like you were able to explore those. And then I feel like then you were able to transition, maybe somewhat reluctantly, but then we're able to, I feel like, transition with a healthy emotional space to a more medical intervention path,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of people, partly just because I think unfortunately our society is so medicalized that there isn't even an awareness of some of these more holistic strategies. But it also is, as you said, just wonderful that the science exists as well when those alone don't work out for you. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad you were able to kind of truly take, sometimes we're reluctant to use the word journey because we're like, it makes it sound like it's like nice. But the thing I like about the word journey is just that I feel like it is such a path where like you have to go where kind of the road takes you. But I am glad that you were able to do some of those holistic things along the way. So you could be at peace with trying those and then ultimately needing to turn to science as well.
Yeah. that is an option. And I think it's really easy in our society also to have this black or white thinking, right? I have to try naturally and natural conception or IVF. And we oftentimes, like, I know I demonized, right? Like IVF, I was like, oh my gosh, like that. If I had to turn to that, oh my gosh, like what would I even do? And that was a thought that was, years ago now, maybe 3 years ago. A year into our family building journey, I was like, absolutely not, no chance. I'm so out of alignment with that. And then I started to kind of, just build, like, just get curious with that. Well, why is that like the worst possible option? And what, you know, what are my kind of fears there? And what does that kind of look like if we were to be on that path? To leave that door open, I think is really helpful. So to anybody that is kind of falling into that dual, think the dualistic black or white thinking pattern is like, get reflective of that because if you if you close that door and you have that resistance and that avoidance, like it's going to creep up on you later, right? You're going to be tested in some way. So it's like an opportunity for growth. So I had to be real careful about that, right? So I'm very mindful of that now in terms of like this end all be all, like this is the only way, right? Like absolutely not, because I know how helpful it is to just have that soft like reflection piece come in because really cool stuff can like come from being in that space and being open and curious.
Yeah, I also love how you were empowered to make it feel comfortable as best you could to the medical path. You found ways to make it like comfortable and meaningful for you all for where you were, whatever that looks like. And I just so
Yeah.
believe in that individualized approach. I mean, in partnership, obviously, with your medical provider. I mean, I think if those kind of things had a very, very low likelihood of success for you, I'm sure they would have talked to you about that. But it sounds like what you felt comfortable with also aligned with what was medically possible for you, and so it's great to hear that that happened, and obviously that the outcome was wonderful with Rogue.
Thank you. Yeah, it is interesting that that was also kind of the protocol for endometriosis. It was really funny because I was like, well, I don't care if that's the protocol or not. Like that's what I feel good about. And I mean, not being so brash with that, but
Right.
my provider, like Rebecca Elskin, and Amanda Murray, like shout out to them, like and Dr. Kiltz, like the whole team at CNY is so amazing. And they will chat with you. I mean, it's uncanny, like how much time they give you and how thorough and sweet and amazing and compassionate these people are to be able to like, you know, get you to that place where you feel good about it, right? I'm like, hey, what is this baby IVF for this low dose protocol? What does that kind of look like? And they'll give you all the things and just be like, hey, like, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, it's all up to you. Like, I'm giving you all the things. And that's how providers should be, right? Like, hey, here's all the info. And like, I want you to feel empowered to make your own decision with that. And that's really cool. So, I mean, shout out to them that they are ultimately about like, trusting your decision and what you need to feel good with. Because if you're like having these pockets of hesitation and mistrust and doubt and fear, like that's going to impact your income, your outcome too. If you feel good about it and aligned, whether the data is on your side or not, like if you feel so strongly like grounded in that and you and your partner are like, and your practitioner are like, yes, one team, one dream, like let's go. There's a lot of beauty and power that can like impact that outcome because you feel connected to it. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That partnership is so important. But I know one of the challenging things, particularly for people who are military connected, whether they themselves are serving or if they're a military spouse, is first finding that team, that partnership that can be consistent, and then dealing with all of the issues both logistically from a medical standpoint, but also emotionally that can arise when maybe you do finally find that team, but you can't stay with them for the duration of your treatment.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how your experience as a military spouse has impacted your journey to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on so many levels. I guess there's the two levels that stand out the most would be like the financial piece and then like that emotional piece, right? And so something that military families really struggle with is that isolation and being away from your people and your family and feeling disconnected where you're living. And so that was definitely a thing for us. We're in Florida. My family's in Washington State. Austin's family's in Vermont. Like we're okay, we got this new community in Florida, and what are we doing here? So hence why we went to Albany to kind of get our care because it allowed us to be closer to Austin's family in that case. But yeah, I think the financial piece is definitely so massive, and the wait list for some of these installations that have the fertility support, like Walter Reed, for example, that's near us. It's like near a 2-year wait list, right? So it's just super unreasonable for folks to be able to access that. Okay, so we could either do that or just go out of pocket and out of state. But yeah, I think finding a budget friendly, if you could even say that option, right? That's a piece. And then navigating, how are you going to have that support system in place as a military family to support you through that when your family and friends maybe not be super, close to you. So, and then accessing that mental health care as a military couple is really challenging too, because even me as like a military spouse, if I'm seeing, a mental health counselor through Tricare, well, my husband's record gets flagged as having a spouse with a psych record. So just a little, hot tip
Wow.
out there for people who wonder why, like, military personnel are not accessing mental health care through Tricare. Well, anyone that accesses mental health care through Tricare or any insurance for that matter, but especially Tricare, they're so invasive about the type of data that they're collecting because these providers need to be reimbursed, right? And so they're collecting that diagnosis and all the things. And then that's really scary for the service member because that could impact their security clearance, that whether or not they're promotion eligible, like reputation, like all the things, right? So it's truly not confidential mental health care. So there's just so many deficits as a military family to kind of like navigate. And there's not a lot of resources, financial scholarships, support from like command. So it's really, really challenging. So that's kind of where we wanted to go with our nonprofit, is to be able to offer the resources that we didn't find, the mental health support piece that's truly confidential, and what can that look like? And then also the financial scholarship piece, because there's just a lot of folks that are in our same boat, a lot of military folks that are really struggling to build their families.
Yeah. And I'm so
Yeah.
sorry that that stigma is there. That's awful.
It's getting better. You'd like to think that it's getting better, more it's talked about, but then that gosh, the insurance piece just is a hard one to kind of navigate because it's just yeah, people want to be able to use their insurance, but then there's a lot of repercussions to be able to do so, right? So it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I know, we've been part of efforts for many, many years trying to advocate for improved access to fertility care for military active service and veterans. And, some people sometimes would question, like, why is the advocacy community focused on that specific population? And I think there's many reasons for it. But for me, I always thought it was really an important place to advocate and to start, because in some ways, well, for one, I feel like, as you've described, you're uniquely disadvantaged because it literally was an exclusion in coverage, and a specific exclusion in coverage to have just that narrow definition of the situation that would be covered, which, as you said, is so lacking and insufficient in terms of the number of people actually dealing with infertility. But also, it was kind of like, it puts the rhetoric to the test, because it's like there's a lot of people who say they're pro fertility treatment, but then when it actually comes down to it, they don't pass the legislation that actually would advance it. And so my thing was like, to me, there's no greater litmus test of bipartisan support than our military and veterans getting fertility treatment. So it was kind of like, if you're not going to pass this, there's no chance you're going to pass universal fertility treatment coverage.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a good start politically to kind of test the waters. Which unfortunately, I mean, I know there have been modest improvements, but families like yours are still paying out of pocket for this and struggling with access to care.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you even call it access to care if you know, okay, the care is there, but if I actually take that step then I'm going to be penalized or my spouse is going to be
Right.
penalized. Like it's there on paper, but it sounds like all of this kind of background noise means that the access really isn't there.
It's on so many levels too, right? Like a policy wise. And then I had we had a client actually reach out to us this morning, like 15 minutes ago, wanting to access our, application for the fertility scholarship, and told a little bit about her story, and obviously won't get into it, but just the lack of support from command and from leadership, who, people are having medical procedures that are done, right? The retrieval and the hysteroscopies and laparoscopies, all the things, and not having those absences be able to be excused, and not having like standard, blood work and ultrasounds covered, and you just having to fight tooth and nail with insurance over these things. It's like, who has the bandwidth for that? I mean, I was in a battle with Tricare over my home birth, covering home birth, expenses. And I was like, I will die on this hill because I am getting reimbursed. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to figure it out. And I reached out and, did my due diligence and reached out to this person who was like, I don't even know what her position was, but she was like, "How did you find me? Like, I'm not listed. Like, what, how did she get my information?" But she was impressed that I found her in some way, slash very annoyed. But I got it done, and she was able to like push my claim through. And I was like, you have to be the squeaky wheel. You have to be annoying about it. You have to advocate for yourself. But it is a shame. It is a damn shame that you have to go through all of that, because not everyone has the bandwidth to be able to fight and to appeal and to push back, and it's a challenge, like, right? So
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Well, I mean, that's another perfect example of like there supposedly is access to care, but like if this person's contact info is specifically not shared, like, no, that's ridiculous. You can't. I'm
Yeah.
sorry you had to go through all that, and that you're continuing
Yeah.
to kind of navigate this whole system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I use that as an example to illustrate kind of like it is possible. Like, it's extra legwork, and I will help you, to as much as possible. Me and my program manager, Jessica, who is amazing, and she's great at kind of problem solving as well. But it's an example to kind of illustrate like what is possible, and like we can, push forward. But yeah, wouldn't it be easier and better for everybody if like the policies, just if you put your money where your mouth is and truly were backing like the family building policies that you say are important.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely. And also, I mean, advocacy is one of the pillars of our All Paths mission. And some people think we only mean political advocacy, and we obviously do a lot of that. But obviously, what you had to do for yourself was advocacy. It's advocacy at all the different levels. But we want to do the advocacy at the systemic levels to have there be less people that have to fight in the trenches individually. Because to have to advocate for yourself when you're already beaten down by this journey of trying to build your family is so hard. It's hard no matter what. To make those calls is difficult anyway, but when you're already struggling in other ways, it's really hard. But I'm so glad you found that good person and then it finally worked out on that piece. So I'm so glad.
Yeah.
So obviously you just personally and professionally were so mindful of the importance of emotional support while you were going through this. But even with that, it was difficult to find it. But who or what were your most important supporters during this time when you were trying to become parents?
Yeah, I mean, I think my husband, Austin, obviously was my big support system. My sister, Natalie, is a massive support, and actually is so good she knows the way my brain works, and she knows how to open those doors when I'm being a little rigid with IVF, no, never. And she's like, well, tell me about, she's not a therapist, but it's funny, and I'm the therapist, but she's like, tell me about that resistance, and in her own way, right? That gets me softens my edges a little bit. So she was massive. And then, my dear friend Lindy, who's also a military spouse, those were like really my, that tripod of support. those folks were super awesome. And just, my own self-care practices of doing a lot of journaling and, working out a lot and throwing myself into triathlon training and different things to kind of like get the stress out of your cells of your body, and so, yeah, I think that having that support system is so, so important. And anyone that's trying to navigate, infertility, and you're questioning whether you should move forward with IVF and what that looks like get your bearings, get your support system in place, because it's and have a good sounding board for folks that are not just going to agree with you, but maybe challenge you kindly, because that's what I needed, and that's what is really important. And definitely have your self-care practices, like some of those things, in place as well, because you feel it can feel just so, yeah, like so much of a roller coaster. So you really want to be stable on a few different pillars of your of your life, right? And having a therapist is obviously super helpful as well. And I have my therapist, who's obviously a big support system, who comes, we weave in and out of sessions whenever I'm kind of needing my gas tank filled. I'll reach out to her. And so I think that's really important, that support. And yeah, so that's what we want to offer with Mindful Warrior Alliance too. Like, we know the journey, and we want people to feel like as grounded and stable as possible while thinking about going through IVF, or, wherever they are on their path. Just having that sounding board and having a therapist, and knowing that information is truly not going anywhere. Well, geez, how many military families can we catch there? Because that's a really big incentive to reach out if someone knows that their information is not being pushed out and put on blast to their command and to the insurance companies. So
Mhm.
it's a big one.
That's awesome.
So it sounds like throughout the course of your own journey, you've been able to identify some of the gaping holes in support and in available resources, particularly for military families, which then led to the creation of the Mindful Warrior Alliance. Can you share about how you work with families and how you're specifically addressing those gaps that you yourself ran into when you were first starting out?
Yeah, so as we were kind of deciding to move forward with IVF, and we'd kind of made peace with, okay, that's our path. We're kind of ripping the Band-Aid. This is how we're moving forward. So I think you could be in limbo for a really long time, and that's just like stressful in and of itself. So once we made that decision, started looking for any resources, started to see, as you said, the gaping holes. We were thinking, gosh, is this crazy to, like, when we're going to be doing IVF, to just start a nonprofit? And I was like, no, why not? Like, I started my own private practice when Austin was deployed, and he came back, and I was like, hey, I have a business now, and here's what we're doing. And he's like, go for it. And we also got a dog. I got a dog during that time too. So I was like, here's our life now. And he's like, go, love it. That's awesome. So I knew he'd be on board to do that. But yeah, we wanted to address the financial piece as well as the mental health piece. So with the financial piece of our nonprofit, we offer $5,000, financial scholarships to military members and spouses of any branch, any rank, you know, Guard, Reserve, veterans, all of the above are able to apply for our scholarships, and then those are approved and chosen through our board. And so there is an application fee. It's $49 application fee for that scholarship, and that also allows you to access 6 free mental health counseling sessions. And so so that's on a quarterly basis, the financial aid piece. And then we have the mental health piece. And we work with fully licensed clinicians in all 50 states. We have provisionally licensed therapists, which means that they're graduated and they're just working toward their 3,000, 4,000 hours of licensure hours. And then we also contract with about six or seven different universities. We have Pepperdine, University of North Carolina, Fordham, George Mason, USC, lots of different University of Washington. And we have their clinical interns, their clinical counseling interns, and masters in social work interns who we take into our program. We provide them with extensive supervision and onboarding in perinatal mental health, military mental health, infertility specific mental health, and gold standard, evidence-based treatments for these folks. And all of our therapists are either mill affiliated or have a history with infertility, or have identified family building struggles in their journey. Some of them have both, so they're very connected. Like our therapists, I've interviewed each and every one of them, so it's very personal to me, the people that we bring on board. We're not just like this catch-all for providers. So it's very, we're finding the right folks are coming to us and are so passionate about the work that they do with our population, which is really, really cool. And our interns are also very invested, because we're very niche, right? It's a very widespread issue, but we're pretty niche about what we offer in our nonprofit. So yeah, that is really important to us. The mental health program is, like I said, 100% confidential. We have a HIPAA compliant, our platform where clients are onboarded and all that stuff happens, but then that information does not go anywhere. And then if clients want to move forward past their 6 free sessions with a clinician, then it's between clinician and client what that rate is, but it's a pay what you can model, typically between $30 and $70. So very well below market rate. So typically if they're working with like our intern therapists, it's that $30 rate. And then the independently licensed therapists are a little bit more than that. So that's a little bit about our program, and we're just, yeah, so happy to be able to provide the services that we do for our community. And we're growing and growing, and our partnerships are growing. And yeah, we just love to work with aligned organizations who have really amazing people who are invested in our same mission.
Well, the model is awesome. It's so thoughtfully crafted and sustained by you and your team, it sounds like. And I love the component of leveraging young clinicians and students, because it's such a great way to reach more people in an affordable way, but also so wonderful for as part of their education to have more expertise and experience in this very specific area, as you said. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you so much.
So do you still have your private practice also, or are you doing this full time?
Yeah, I still see about 10 clients a week with my private practice, and then I don't dare do the math with the nonprofit stuff.
I know.
But yeah, I thankfully, yeah, I hired a program manager, Jessica Sanchez, who's just been like the most amazing saving grace ever. Thank God for her. Like she's amazing. So we've been growing since Jessica's come on board, especially. So thank you, Jessica.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we will be sure to put your website and various links in the show notes for anybody who's listening who wants to get in touch.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
How many
that.
families, like if you had to ballpark it, how many families do you think you've supported so far?
Gosh, yeah, I would say maybe 100 so far. And we started in 2023. I took a year off to have my daughter, and then we just recently started back up too. So I'm like, what do we really count here? But really, honestly, since Jessica's come on board, I mean, honestly, that's all been really in the last, I would say, 4 months.
That's amazing.
Like very short, yeah, very short term. But and we have probably about 60 therapists at this point who are active with us, and all of our therapists are in, various states and are able to support clients who are, deployed and outside of the US as well. So anyone looking to access that mental health support, make sure to reach out to us, and we'll pair you with a therapist. And if that doesn't work out for you, we'll pair you with another one. So it's not like you're stuck with that person. We're very mindful about, just it being a really good fit for folks. So yeah.
Oh, that's really wonderful. Well, I mean, we can say we knew you when you're this massive national org with hundreds of
Oh
people
my
working for you
gosh.
and thousands of families that you've supported.
Oh my gosh. I would be so happy with just Jessica if we could just keep it small, and maybe she could clone herself, or there's an AI version or something. I don't know. But yeah, obviously we love to expand the capacity to, to serve would be great.
I've tried to clone Emily. I keep trying to put her in the machine, but
Just doesn't
she
work.
gets nervous as soon as the door closes, and then I have to stop. I have
You're
to,
like 3D print, Emily,
yeah,
go,
yeah,
go, go,
exactly.
go.
It's been so lovely getting to know you, get to know more about your journey, and to hear about all of the amazing work that you're doing. But we do unfortunately have to start to wrap up. Um, so before we end our conversation today, there are two questions that we like to ask all of our guests. I'll let you know what
Mhm.
both of them are, so you can kind of decide what order you'd like to answer them in. But the first
Sure.
is, what is one thing that you would say to someone who is just starting to grow their family? And you can have it be specific to military families if you'd like, or you can have it just kind of be a broad anyone who is starting on this
Mhm.
journey. And the flip side of
Yeah.
that is, what is one thing that you wish people would never say when someone shares with them that they're struggling on this process?
Yeah, those are two really good questions. I think I alluded to maybe answer the first question earlier when I said, like, what I would say to someone who's early in their family building journey is to, get that support network, I think, but just to not take no for an answer, but just to explore your options. And maybe if you're someone who's only ever looked at like Western medicine, just opening that door to maybe what Eastern medicine would have to offer, and just being curious about what is out there and what alternatives are out there. And if you find yourself being in that really rigid black and white thinking, just getting curious about that, and listening to the podcasts, and the getting consumed by like the content overload is like a real thing. So just be mindful of that, but just be looking for information in a few different directions, right? And be really in tune with yourself in terms of like what you feel called to do, what feels like the right move for you, and having a sounding board that questions you. And so, yeah, moving in a direction that feels good for you is really important. Having that support system is clutch.
Yes, 1,000%. And for anybody listening who's working on building that support system, we'll definitely put the links for the Mindful Warrior Alliance in the show notes. Might have said that already, but we'll also include the link to our free virtual Building Military Families peer group. That can be just another great layer of support for people who are looking to connect with others, as a complement to therapy and all of the other different support systems that you have in place, just to, get a chance to meet a group of people who really understand what it is that you're going through. So, Kerri, that was awesome. And we'd love to get your thoughts on the second question.
Something I wish people would not say. I've learned obviously in like the work that I do with my clients too. I'm like, we can't control like, who's out there and what they're going to say, and people are going to have their comments and things like that. But I think like, just the classic kind of, well, just adopt, or like, just do this or just do that. Right. With, it's just, it's so tough to be in that position if you've never kind of like encountered someone who's struggling. We all have these like autopilot default responses that are sometimes like harsh or icy or like not super sensitive, right? But like, just adopt, or it'll come, or I'll pray for you. And everyone has the best intentions. So like, just trying to take that when someone says like, I'll pray for you, and maybe you're not religious, or you think that's bullshit, or whatever, just like deep breath. They're trying the best they can to support me, and I could tell they're awkward and like don't know what to do. And so like giving them a little grace with like their comment, and trying not to get super hyped about it, because like ultimately we just all need calm, regulated nervous systems. So try to like give that person some empathy and some grace and some love with like their awkward or like icy response. Like, trust me, they're going to be beating themselves up for it later, probably like, crap, why did I say that? So it's good for you just to like send them some love, give yourself a nice deep breath, and like move forward.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That that is a answer that has grace. More than I probably always
Hey,
gave, but I love it. It's a good
it's
goal
easy
for
to say
sure.
that in the moment, right? But like, even
Mhm.
yeah, like, I have to walk the walk, and I'm reminded of those things too. My husband's like, wait, what are you supposed to be doing again? Or, whatever. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay. Yeah. But we all see red in those moments, and we just feel hurt and
Mm-hmm.
burned and like alone and rejected. And it sucks when you're in those moments, but like, the breath is like the ultimate separator to try to like give your rational brain enough time to turn on, so you can be like, oh, that's what's going on here. Cool. So it's hard. Like, I've not had the best responses. Like, yeah, I've been there. You know.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's so
Thank you
nice to know
guys.
you.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Appreciate the work you do. Thank you guys.
We hope you'll join us next time for more family building stories and resources. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to make sure you never miss an episode. And follow us on social media at allpathsfb or visit our website, allpathsfb.org, for more information about our work. All Paths Family Building is so grateful to the members of our circle of support who are vital to our ability to provide emotional support, education, and advocacy that is open to anyone struggling to grow their families. Today, we want to give a great thank you to our bronze sponsor, CCRM Boston. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please help spread the word so that anyone who is struggling to grow their family can join the conversation. It's an honor to walk with you on your family building journey.